Best of all things is water. So it's actually a phrase that I must have read, oh gosh, who knows, 40 years ago or something, by the Greek philosopher whose name I always pronounced as Thales, but I just recently learned that it's Thales, which is nicer actually.
Yeah.
So if anyone knows a better pronunciation, you can tell me, but I'm going to call him Thales. And so oddly, um, we chose this title, and maybe, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, I gave a talk to the East Hampton Garden Club. And after I gave this talk, a woman came up to me and handed me a little card. And on it, she said, "You should read this book." And the book is There Are Rivers in the Sky by Elif Shafak. And I know of that writer, but I hadn't read this book before. So I ordered There Are Rivers in the Sky. I opened it up, a couple days ago, and to just this isn't from the beginning of the book, it was from a note. I close my eyes and think of Thales of Miletus sitting on the banks of the winding Meander River, which gave us the word meander. So there it was, right? Little card that she presented to me, and there was Thales. So we've spent our whole adult lives living by water on one peninsula or another. And so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna read a few poems, then Megan's gonna read, then I'll read a few more, and then Megan will read again. And so I'm gonna start with poems from Cornwall. So we lived in Cornwall in the southwest tip of England for 8 years, and had our first home there. We're married there, had our first child there, etc. And so I'm going to start off with poems of Cornwall, and then in my second part, I'm going to read poems inspired by water here. So to start with, I'm going to read from this book, which is called Stars Are Suns. Looks like this. And it's a book that I collaborated with a wonderful English, Irish, let's put it the other way, Irish-English artist named Brian O'Casey, who was the son of Sean O'Casey, the great Irish playwright. And it looks like this. So he did the woodblock cuts, and they look like this. So you're welcome to look at it afterwards if you want. Let's see if I find another one that like this. So each one is an original print, these woodblock prints, because the book was made by letterpress. So it starts with an envoy, Envoy West Country, which is the name of used for Cornwall. It's as far as in the west as you can go. We lived right near Land's End. Envoy West Country. First light rides rocking water, stone blooms brush by windrush on sky and the crackers. Herbs and bone illumine dark earth where blue stars sleep under the candles of Alchemilla. Then the first poem is titled Ulysses. So it's really the man who journeys, Ulysses. Now my shoulder letters the sail of this new earth. The light green water stone is bird shape and song shape, and secret as the stars in caves. A delicate flame, like rays of sea returned to sun, names my mask and garden. May a man be here and still hidden. I follow the steep and shallow coast and mark the straight flight of the shag. His wings touch and leave the bay surface as my fancy and fantasy embrace and leave a world of prey and hunter. I breathe in the surface sadness of stone, and a heron shape that stops on the moor moves my hand to gesture, journey.
I just want to mention that when he said on the crackers,
Oh,
just explain what the crackers are.
yeah. So, we lived in a little fishing village called Mousehole. It's actually spelled Mousehole. We lived in Love Lane Cottage, Mousehole. And next to this bird sanctuary overlooking Mounts Bay. And if you continue out onto this coast path, which continues 500 miles around the coast of Devon and Cornwall, spectacular. You go out a little bit further and the coast path drops down like this and the granite rocks. So it's my garden in these cliff meadows was about 100 feet above the base, and there was the cave, the Mousehole cave was right below. But as you go out, the granite rocks, diminish, and you're right next to the sea. And that point was called the Crackers. The Crackers was where the bird ladies, who maybe we'll mention them again, the bird ladies would go to set the birds free. So it was a bird sanctuary, very well-known bird sanctuary. And when the point was to heal the birds and then to release them, and they would take them to the Crackers where they would release them. Okay, so this one, again, from Cornwall, is called Aria in C. Late winter wet on privet hedge and fuchsias red, the dressed white of cove wind. East wind stirs fabric among stones, clothes woven by cliff stream and cold. My eye records diffuse and difficult tones, sea chants and chants bucklings of branch and cone, self-shimmer of earth change. List, list here within range of touch, scents and sounds I am other to resist. Lute notes of moorland ease, with night shadow into morning, and on earth a music that gentle light gives to eyes in a play of days. That's aria in C. So I had a great teacher when I was in college. So fortunate that he actually wound up in Binghamton, New York. His name was Basil Bunting, great Northumbrian poet, a really great Northumbrian poet. And Bunting said,
Great name.
for a poet, yeah, he had to be a poet. He said, poetry must be read aloud. And this is what I heard when I was 19 years old. So, okay, one more from this book, and this is part of there's a longer poem called Stilt Jack Sings, which actually comes from Yeats, and there's the epigraph is processions that lack high stilts have nothing that catches the eye. So this is called Wave. The cliff breast shifts under weight of water. Near bare sea vowels foam on stone. Water is the color of past and forward, and I choose to voice to that water a sparrow sound, a daw and robin sound, and then to wait for word, present of charm. I do not know what I have done, but the quiet corral of the world is new. So this is what the page looks like. Like that. So I'm going to shift to still staying with Cornwall, but I'm going to shift to a couple other poems. And this one is a poem I wrote after the Italian poet Leopardi. Too bad I didn't have the Italian version. Michael could read the Italian. And it's called A se stesso, to himself. Pierrot or simplicity bows before my heart. I do not believe eternity is extreme. Note the carriage of illusion, beautiful, sway and spell of desire and rest. Note the cool possession of the spirit by earth, life, all and nothing. Quiet river, ultimate river, a generous night, though gender of fate and amour eludes me. Thalassa, Thalassa, small port where punts commune with imperial infinity. Is it vanity to say this with tenderness? So that's a wonderful poem by Leopardi. Well, thank you. One more Cornish poem, and then a beautiful poem that I just was reminded of that I wanted to read. This is called Barbara's Garden. So in St. Ives, over the moorland for where we lived in Mousehole, there Barbara Hepworth, the sculptor, lived, and her garden is actually kept intact now, filled with her sculpture, and the Tate actually runs this now. There's a Tate in St. Ives, but then the Tate actually runs Barbara Hepworth's garden. And I had the fortune to be working in St. Ives for this period, and so I went every day and had my lunch in Barbara's garden. What we hear in the garden is visible as petals and metal. Branch, bronze, and rain meet in our ears' spiral. The oral shape is also instrument. What wind takes to steel and bronze, the metal shapes to waterfall. What we hear in the garden, tone breathing into poem, bone and petal, articulates the invisible. Cherry flakes slip through night to blanket water in Barbara's garden. Mahogany and strings, blackbirds' feathers, cradle sound as the sculptor mothers her mallet. Her chisel sweeps through space and stone. What we hear in the garden is here and not here. Her music of forms, fruit of the salt air. We should have brought Bill King's sculpture of Barbara Hepworth with us.
Well,
And come to our house and see Barbara Hepworth made by Bill King. It's just classic. She's got a forearm that looks like Popeye. Okay, one more poem and then Megan. This is from a beautiful book called A Man Apart, about a beautiful man named Bill Copperthwaite. And the book is by our good friends Peter Forbes and Helen Wybrow, and it begins with a poem by Stanley Kunitz. It's called The Long Boat. When his boat snapped loose from its mooring under the squeaking of the gulls, he tried at first to wave to his dear ones on shore, but in the rolling fog they had already lost their faces. Too tired even to choose between jumping and calling, somehow he felt absolved and free of his burdens, those mottos stamped in his name tag, conscience, ambition, and all that caring. He was content to lie down with the family ghosts and the slop of his cradle, buffeted by the storm, endlessly drifting. Peace, peace, to be rocked by the infinite. If it didn't matter which way was home, as if it didn't matter which way was home, as if he didn't know he loved the earth so much he wanted to stay forever. Okay, Megan.
So I'm going to start with some poems from this book called Voice, which has illustrations, artwork, call them artwork rather than illustrations, by William King. And so each one has a piece that goes with each poem. And when I was looking through my poems, I have so many poems about water. I could read almost the whole book. It's like I had to choose because so much about the ocean and about just the power of water and the sounds and the formations, just so much. I just love water. This is called Sky Chambers, and there's the illustration for it. Sky chambers set ringing with wind, blue glass bowls of sound sedge deep in the pelvis of the bay, the slipway coddled with foam, at every step the relief of tears. If there were a hill to climb, to look out over the sentence of shoreline, the sandpiper's eye view might release me into the breadth of larger knowing. But here, I am silt and wash of inturned lets and silvers, inlet, outlet, the kindness of water that moves as it's willed to, and bears the life in cycles, like rings moving out and out, as if to reach a circle of harmony, if only on the last subtle swell before it dies away in the water chambers set ringing with light. So in the description, Scott mentioned water and rain and rivers and bays and ocean. And so this one's about rain. Cells of rain, cells of light. Oh, here's the illustration. Screen and window, both pearled with rain. Each rain cell, a cell of light. Beautiful as any bounty of the small that returns the light to us with the generosity of things passing again to wholeness. Vapor clouds on morning breath, stars between trees, or the tossed shard of blue sea glass tilted above the lighted crest of its fall. And this is smaller boats. Smaller boats drift as pleases, slip their turning into the wake of the great ones, like children, cradle their buoyant bellies between smooth morning swells, the hollows mothers keep impressed long into year span, when winter holds below sea, winds abate, hills smooth, and the breath of smaller boats is all that plays over sea shoulders. And this one's called Falls. Let me see if I can read this without glasses. So this is, I don't know if any of you've been to Ithaca and been to any of those gorges with the beautiful falls falling down through the slate gorges. If I stand on a shining black flagstone at the edge of the gorge, wet with the falls dashing into white filaments, to catch a few drops, to roll on my palms like mercury, will even one register the cold heat at the center, where the turbulent white whorl claps in on itself, tighter and tighter, in an unraveling fabric of thunder, made of worlds blown asunder and blooming again each moment? Will I be able to carry back even one to show you where I've been? And that was a wonderful project with Bill. Now, this
Did
book
you
also.
read the poems and then do the art? Or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and I have all of his notes and his rough drafts of things, and so I love the thinking that. Yeah, and then his interaction with the designer who designed that book.
He memorized our poems. So when we would come in the door, he would recite our poems to us.
This is the one. So I think that's time for this. This is the one he would recite of mine. Bright resilience within the tide, where the last deep night one folds her wings and drops to the surface. Ferry boat rocks the shallows. Ferry boat rocks
in the shallows.
I
can't get the next one. We need Bill.
We need Bill. Ferry boat in the shallows rocks the shadow. One song ends on in-breath, and the current turns the prow.
There, you got
A good moment for that.
Yeah.
Poems that are in voice also collected in the
larger. Yeah. Yeah, that I have copies of both of them, but I put them in there too.
So William King, Bill King, was this great sculptor married to Megan's mother, Connie Fox, who was a painter. So we've been talking about Bill, so I thought I should mention that.
And she's the reason we're here because she moved out here because she was great friends with Elaine de Kooning. And then that's how we came out here, was through her. So I have to read this one from after being at the ocean recently and seeing like the dramatic waves. Ocean, Atlantic Ocean at Gibson. Blue as of memorized sky, ballast, water, surge, up to and beyond the clairsentient touch of foam. Gentle the edge from power inherent in the full push, way beyond the last place it washed to. Long edge rolls as swell piles over itself into one steep curtain of roar along horizon, buckled and marbled, to remind us how we came into being long after her. Walk the edge, just inside a lip of foam. Mark the phrase of each wave. Wait on its retreat to test the back-drawn purpose coming over sand and mold the prints our feet furrowed as an afterthought of storm. Sanderlings, rhythmic, run minute commas in and out that same edge like 5-year-olds intent on errands of imagination with swift feet, sure to stay just beyond the reach of our stride. Presence of you, soft at hand, stronger than sea demand, loyal in a turn to look out further than words can take us. We touch each other between the wave rinsing and remember where we once were, water within water, like the sea. And that I wrote last night. You're welcome. You're the first to hear it. Scott hasn't even heard it.
Oh,
So here's another new one from about a week ago. Majesty of water. Majesty in a round of water, blue sky mirror, where golden threads. Oh, I have to say something before I read this. You know what terns are? The seabirds. And have you watched them?
Sandpipers?
Like,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah,
just
okay.
the little larger versions of the
Okay.
sandpipers, yeah. So terns are the ones that fly, you know, the ospreys do that, like dive. So do the terns. And so they do that where they fly, and then all of a sudden they just fold their wings, right? And they just dive straight down into the water. Yes, plummet. Good word, not in the poem. Next one. Majesty in a round of water, blue sky mirror, where golden threads mend the tears, but unevenly, to let the dream light filter through. Or would she, as she holds her needle poised, like the tern before she dives into the depths, be keen in aim, master, hover, definitive now, into the deliberate fall, wings folded, fingers tuned, to pierce the surface exact at the spot of entry. How did she divine just where I, most vulnerable only here, could be punctuated, opened, rent, and mended, all in one gesture of her hand pulling through the holy thread. So those are the new ones. Hi, come on in.
Hi, come in. Is it me again? Or are you reading another one?
I'm gonna read another one.
Okay.
I still have the ones from this book.
Okay. You go ahead.
I'll let you know. Hi.
Welcome.
So this is a bird song under the wisdom tree, and the cover is a painting by my mother. Steps, moon face. Steps, shell, moon face. So these are definitely about the ocean here. And this is from the chapter As Breath Gathers to Deep Water. Quiet breaks into a slower rhythm as high chance sounds fall out of hearing and breath gathers to deep water, push that draws pull that yields push. Earth rocks our sea basin to the brim. Plenitude draws into itself the down gathering power of tide. Shoreline widens, yawns a primeval hour to the air, and we are left to our own weight in the sand. Chance bones built up at the edge of wave pattern. This body, ingathered as coherent tide, drops to center, climbs to turn, trespasses low pools with weight of return. Caustic motion of deep rhythm slows water surface with silt, and low tide stone furrows a curve where the body of sea climbs the narrows, overflows, falls, draws, withdraws to rise, as in pelvic bones of women, birth cups against bone space, the moment before turn, tides wait, press, breath falls full, then the wave breaks. If you steer by the reflection of the moon in the delta, here in the water, by your oar, you could cup your hands under it and pour it into the boat. The other moon, true as she is, has always kept her wild distance. Remember how, when we were young, she followed right there beside us, slipping between trees, keeping up no matter our speed. And still she is infallibly present wherever we turn, her shining eye above the mouth of water, her sinking color surprises in another tree than where we last saw her, and still she is the one to steer by. Our truth lies stretched over the water's surface, woven into the waves, like a path made clear by her rising or going down. Moving by those wide, sure laws, the wise know, this moon, her self-reflected light, reflects again down within all waterways, stirs the pure lone self to follow, our one true guide. And I will pass it on to you.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to now move to this side of the ocean where we are now. But I should mention that Megan and I met in London when a friend, we were both there studying through Antioch University, who had a Center for British Studies, and I was getting an MFA, and I had finished, and Megan was there for a junior year abroad, and a friend asked me to come and read poems in her class, and that's how we met. And as we were leaving the place where the class was held, there was a poster announcing a Wordsworth Festival, which was next week. And Seamus Heaney, the great Irish poet, was sort of, reading on the first night, and the next night, Basil Bunting, who was my teacher, was reading Wordsworth. And so I said, well, I am coming back in for that Wordsworth Festival. And so that was our first unofficial date, was going to going to hear Seamus Heaney and Basil Bunting. This one's called Primavera. At the open door, I cradle my daughter facing bay backwater. March light filters silver on beak, wing, feather of white and black buffleheads, iridescent mallards, the snow swans, and kingfisher's crown. Sun is an hourglass shape on the instrument of water, reflected starlight crossed by kingfisher's rattle, ducks slide and completely spring like diamonds spin in the wise liquid of my daughter's eye. And the poem is printed. I kind of goofed here, but the poem is in hourglass. So we lived in Redwood for a while, and Rowena our daughter was, I think, a year at the time, and so that was a poem looking out at the water with Rowena. And this is called A Poem of the Night. See my father find his spring in the almost silent dark. Above an oak umbrel, distant lights announce change. On a block wall facing east, we talk and accept a harmony from salt water which nips the post and reeds. Our like tenor mimics the cicada. His voice is tender and manly as words merge with the summer wind on bark, water, and salt grass as turtles drift to the surface. He stands apart on sparse grass, and his voice becomes his being, slow, tidal as the cove backwater. His friends are distant or depart, one by one. I did my time, he says. Now he rests. Even now, I resist the impulse to kneel or shatter. We name only spirits and not the nearest shadow. When night lights appear on the opposite shore, we lean on the dock for a last look at the kingfisher's perch and shallows where the heron will wade. In this meeting, a season, an evening, a second, I receive a father's seed and go to my son with a father's need to sustain his house in the universe. That's the one poem I ever wrote about my father. Now this one is about Connie Fox, Megan's mother, and we lived on Howard Street when we first came to back from England. Connie had found us this house on Howard Street, and
In Sag Harbor.
Sag Harbor.
in Sag Harbor. Yeah. And Rowena, our daughter, was born in that house. And Connie, on the day that Rowena was born, came with a painting. I went to the door and Connie was there with a painting to give as a present. So it's called The Painting. And there's an epigraph from Master Dogen, Ehe Dogen, the 13th century Zen master. Flowers are innocently fondled by the wind, and birds trust freely to time. These are feats of giving. Indeed, by reason of being originally gifted with the power of giving, one's present self came into being. So I've read that about 1,000 times, and I encourage you to read it 1,000 times. It has more meaning every time I read it. The Painting. The morning her daughter gave birth to a daughter, she came to the door, a formal visit with a gift of herself. See the New Mexican mountains where she lived with her first child, and her wild blood changed her conception into beautiful girl. She paints pinnacles and rainbows, place for wide water to fall and flow. As the moon rises, it cradles each peak with silver and sets an imagined blue stone. A powerful white tornado moves through snow crowns to name the distance as near. This is paint on paper, part of herself. With her body in brush, clouds part, the moon carries away. The essential, necessary mask of art, like the surface of rivers, glides over an older face and selfless empties into a mother water. But could you see Connie's painting in that, Rob?
We see Con.
Oh, that's nice. I hope so. Connie had all kinds of natural shapes and forms in her paintings, but you couldn't say, that's a hat, or, that's a crowbar. This is not a crowbar. Just so you know, the moon is not a moon.
No, the moon was a moon, and the tornado was a tornado.
And this one, interestingly enough, another one for Connie. This is called Master Dogan Walks on the South Fork. The eyes of the fox are shells. Her home is sand, this luminous beach. She is washed by salt water, bleached by sun, wrapped in the calcium ribbon of shellfish. Her body is a skeletal map, a lens, a geographic mark. Did she leave a den in the red oaks, descend the dune of scrub and marl, or rise, carried by waves of the sound? Myriad things come forth to make the map of eyes and bone, to mark the art of shell and stone, water, wind, salt, bones, wind, water, wind. We actually found the fox. We could barely see it as we were walking on the sand. It was there underneath the stones and the shells, the body of the fox. Okay, this was Cyprus. This was written here, but this is actually about a canoe trip that we took on a river, the Ebenezer River near Savannah. It's called Cyprus. Read into the millennium of this cypress the story of a seed of the Mother of God. In autumn, the Ebenezer River 8 feet lower, she appears in the yoni which touches backwater and disappears into a fluting of roots to float in air above river and the spider's filament of moss. Here in a place cupped by wood and the ovule drained of water, emptiness sings. Born of resonant space, not vacant, but occupied by memory of water, it is lost on the surface of black water where roots of hyacinth thread the mirrored buttress. But emptiness is form. Delicate purple flowers feed from the yoni to clothe and change a river's shape and flow. Cupped by wood and glowing, the wet inner darkness is forever flowing. Now, you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to rhyme glowing and flowing, but I did it.
Oh.
So here's my last one. And this one I'm reading because it's called Trinchera, Colorado Chapel, because Rebecca was there with us at this extraordinary landscape. It's actually the largest privately owned property in Colorado, something like 170 acres. And we spent some time there, and there's a wooden chapel that Megan and I visited.
70,000? 170,000?
170,000 acres. Yeah. This altar is a window into the holiness of rock and sky. In place of thorns, light. Wooden wings of angels praise juniper, pinyon, elevation, resurrection. High in the Rockies, alone, a couple in a chapel made of earth. Cold, cold water, snow melt from summit to meadow carries over grass and stones, sound of the chapel bell and the psalm you sing. From adobe to arroyo, as shadows of mountain meadow absorb light, surely, the song says, goodness will follow.
I still have on my camera lots of pictures of that chapel. Just the most incredible work done by people that lived right there. It's just an unbelievable
Really
little
beautiful
place.
Yeah.
Where Malcolm Forbes is buried.
Yeah.
Just a beautiful town.
Now owned by Louis Bacon.
Yeah. I think he redid, he did the inside of the chapel. But
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like it. It was just a,
Yeah, so when you look out, and when you're looking out at the altar in this, beautiful adobe building and everything with wood, I've never seen this in a church before. It's just a big glass window, and you're looking out at a 14,000-foot peak at the altar. That's what you're looking out through the altar.
And since we're talking about water, there was a beautiful little a creek.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah,
Arroyo. Yeah.
yeah.
What's the name of that town again? Where they check them?
I don't know the nearest Grand Junction. Is that the nearest town?
on the border
Of New Mexico. Yeah, or
It
southern,
was called Trinchera, the ranch.
the ranch is called
Pin-
Trinchera,
Trinchera.
Trinchera, but there's no, the town, nearest town is quite a ways away. Yeah.
So I don't suppose when you say you have photographs that they're on your phone. Oh, yes? Oh, maybe afterwards you could.
Yeah.
I mean.
He does.
I can find anything on it, but you can't. Yeah.
Sometimes you have to reflect a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, beautiful.
Keep them.
So we'll go to the rivers, river paths. This awkward relevance smiles between your press, full seeking release, and my small sweep emptiness. Sun pride melts in you, and the ways of light through water open for you. My riverbed swells with the full invernal tide, the emerging after the settled winter lake slow moon. She that I am stands still to listen to the no light in the white field where with time we furrowed our first union, walking into the shoulders of our two paths until they merged. Now the black, the pure black, inside and out turns moist. A shooting star spells a moment, escaping the pairing and the rings, the lines of star maps and the perforated dark. She that I am, like an arrow, waits in the quiver in unknown sequence for Orion's night session with the bow. When tide turns, when the highest tide returns with the full moon, the inner surface of shell repeats the opening sky. Distance is joy. Under my arch in the fragrant marshland, all beginnings dance through your swell. This firm, low beat returns to our bellies as we stir each other's rain pools, a white breath. This is the way of the wonder ones into the world, like the rounds of round stones mouthed by the sea, molded by passage, curled in the blue-white foam at the edge of their coming through. And this is Brushneck Cove, Sag Harbor. And this fascinated me when we first moved here. I don't think I've seen it. I mean, it's changed a lot. The winters used to be cold enough that there was ice over the bay. But to see that the edge, that the bay had ice over it, but the edge was not frozen. How can ice surface the whole belly of our tidal bay and not crack like anger? Freeze and still breathe. Fall, play its edges with tide, and rise again. Not completely seal the easy shallows round the circumference of its frozen center. Is it simple? Original wholeness forgives borders. Center is all, wide, omnipresent. Its solidarity is the whole listening force as if in audience. Frozen, water is ice, not fluid, is still wetness. Is earth suspended in ice? Is the cold, the hard that can shatter to air? Is the moment music? Is pure change at the still point, turning before itself, within itself, beyond itself, until the sister air carves the crystal edge as thin as light and marks the floor of sky where birds walk on water, and the fluid element remembers how once the child God's feet walked as light as love upon its belly. In the river. In the river, no complete circles. Some root, stone, broken, discarded glass makes the current eddy, plays around it. When I slip to the side of those unearthed obstacles, play like a water insect in the current, the great surge moves in a wave of lights as small as diamonds and as able to etch the glass of my unmelted self. And this I wrote for a children's book. It's called Whale Song. As we breach, sweet light rinse us. Sweet air fill us, renew us, strengthen us as joy fountains from our blowholes and we draw in God's breath. Sweet water, bless us. We sound your depths, our bellies in your belly, ocean, home. Circle of life, protect our babies, protect our whale family, our circling sound. Mother of all, fill the boatman's listening with the voices of the family of life. Mother, like lightning, strike awe like water, soothe fury, and stay their hands from tools of harm. Cleanse all hearts to sing our song, to cleanse our water, water for all. We call to each other through the water globe, and you are with us in our death place and in our birthplace, water singing, whales singing, mother singing, round. And okay, two more. Under the wind. Under the wind this spring, I hear the chambers of 100,000 hearts thrumming like so many bowls carved out of the sea cliffs by waves the color of hyacinths, cupped under green glass, cooling into roundness, to translucence, so that the green-purple sound booms up the cliff face, carries right up through our feet, into the bone center of our beings. And that's from Cornwall. That is from Cornwall, not from here. And but you know, when we go to Montauk, it's so amazing because I feel like we're like at Land's End, at the end of the Penwith Peninsula in England, and like Montauk is like the end here of this peninsula, and even you know the hydrangeas and just the you know there's the cliffs there. There it doesn't have the granite of Cornwall, but
Yeah.
So this last poem. Circle of purpose. Within the circle of purpose, the 11-beat rhythm of wave rinses slate shingle, turns the broken over broken, and sounds them like muffled bells. And with each phrase of wave, new memory resounds from the ancient cove. Who listens with acute ear to hear beyond the suffering at the deep edge of things? Who stands still and even longer still to mark the pattern echoes of wave pulse, the meter of the blood, listening like a loving friend through the breaking, the change, for the return? It is the ache of the smallness of the container that has been broken open against the broad, uninhabited northern regions of the self, broken open to vastness, even as the narrow walls of the chambers of our hearts become alert to an ache deeper than any sounding of the deep could reach. This wave is a woman whose body is sound, and the light in the green translucence of her as she breaks strikes the soul of one who sees with love.
Okay.
It's so wonderful to share all these with you. I'm so grateful for you to be here and share this beautiful place with the connection with the ocean and Mini Wichoni, water is life.
Such a joy to listen to those voices.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. So we're open to anything, questions or comments or anything.
God, how did you end up in Cornwall from here?
Well, the quick answer to that is that Megan wrote a letter to a woman who wrote a book that Megan found in her library in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, called The Cry of a Bird. And Megan wrote her a poem when she was 12 or 13. And Dorothy wrote back to her, Dorothy Iglesias, who was one of the founders of this bird sanctuary in Cornwall. And they carried on a correspondence for many years. And when Megan was in Europe with her mother, her father came over, mother and father split up. Her father took her down to meet Dorothy and Pog, the bird ladies in Mousehole, and then they still continued their correspondence. And then years later, after we had met in England, we had this opportunity to go down to Cornwall, and a bunch of magical things kept us there for the next 8 years.
The story's in here.
Yeah.
I tell the story in here.
But when
This book.
one of the lovely parts of the story is that when we arrived there, we went into Dorothy's cottage. So Dorothy lived in the cottage, and Pog, who was a wood carver, lived in the studio, and the two of them were spinsters. But they, started this bird sanctuary and became quite well known for it. Dorothy received the OBE from the Queen for their work with birds. And when we went into the cottage and we saw these, place where Dorothy kept the letters. People read her books and wrote her, letters. But then all of Megan's letters we found in Dorothy's dresser drawer, separate, just Megan's letters, all wrapped up in her drawer. It was quite amazing.
Well, we meant a lot to each other, and basically what I took from it was, across culture, across the ocean, different generations. She was my grandmother's generation, was that because they didn't set out to start a bird sanctuary, bird hospital, they just took care of some birds, and then people kept bringing them birds, and they just kept building little things off the side of Pog's studio to take care of them. And they'd go down to the fishermen in Newland to get fish to bring back to them. And then there was the big tanker spill, and so they took care of the oiled birds, and then people were sending them birds from on the train, and that's how, you know, they got to be known. And so, but it was just amazing that I had that book was in my Pennsylvania middle school library. But what it meant to me was, you know, when you're young and you're going through high school and you're going to go to college or whatever you're going to do after high school, and people are saying, what do you want to do? Right? And I would just think about Dorothy, and like they just followed what they did. Pog was a wood sculptor, and it was always this inspiration of like, you just live who you are. You don't have to like follow any prescribed pathway. And somehow I meant something to her as much as she meant something to me.
And Pog, actually, her studio was built.
Wooden angel.
Oh, look at that.
They're Paul.
Oh, look at that.
Well, this is made out of cottonwood, and probably it could be the
Yeah.
man who carved these
Yeah.
got cottonwood from our land in Corrales, just north
New
of
Mexico.
Albuquerque.
Megan, do you have the poem you wrote to her?
You can go through them.
Yeah, I do.
Oh, the whole
I'll
chapel.
have to take a moment to find it, but I do, yeah.
Love to hear
Yeah, so Dorothy wrote a second book. So the first one was The Cry of a Bird, and she wrote a second book. Yeah, and the second one is called An Answer to the Cry. And she published Megan's poem that Megan sent to her in that book, actually.
Okay, well, you keep talking while I look for it.
Well, I'm gonna say that when you look at the larger picture, both of your lives have completely been informed by women. Because your movement to Cornwall was because of Dorothy,
Yeah,
and your movement here was because of Connie.
yeah.
And
And
you're
Right.
Yeah, and you're, so
wise
it's
mentors.
so beautiful, yeah.
that's an interesting
Yeah,
insight.
Lovely. Yeah.
This is just
We
So-
on a mountain together, the three of us.
Yeah.
I mean, it had to be 12,000 feet, mainly because I couldn't go in the fire. But it was really a spiritual
Yes.
experience.
Yeah.
Have a-
Yeah.
That's
The holiness of rock and sky. That's what
That's the
Yeah.
chapel,
The poem.
So Pog was the wood carver, and Dorothy lived in the cottage, and then Pog was commissioned to carve a life-size Christ for a church in St. Hilary, which is across the bay from where we lived. And so this was obviously many years before we were there. But anyhow, she carved this life-size Christ, and so we decided to get married when we were there, and we got married in the church where we lived in the studio where Pog carved the Christ, and then we got married in the church. Yeah, amazing
It was
place.
difficult to leave.
It was difficult to leave. Yeah, it was difficult to
We
leave.
stayed in England, you know, we
Yeah.
arrived in 73. We didn't.
You were there for 30 years or something. Yeah. Yeah,
38
okay.
years,
Wow. Yeah.
still with the American accent. though.
Yeah.
Day. Well,
Well, we were called the Yanks on the Hill.
Yeah.
That was in Mousehole.
Well, every now and then people would say, "Are you Canadian?" And that was their way of, you know, giving us a little out. I don't know if I
But
can
my
find it.
mentor in the Cliff Meadows, so that's where I learned to garden, was on these Cliff Meadows, because it was called the earliest ground in Britain. It's because the first new potatoes to find their way into the market at Covent Garden came out of these meadows. But when I heard it was called the earliest ground in Britain, I said, well, I have to get involved in that. And I had a mentor named Edgar Wallace. And when we first were there, the Cornish accent is very strong, and it was very hard to understand him at all. But eventually we became the closest of friends.
I found it.
Yay.
It's great.
Um,
So you wrote this when you were
Give us a little
So,
story.
yeah, backstory. So I found the book, and it wasn't like an assignment. You know how sometimes teacher gives you an assignment to write to an author? This was just purely because I felt like I just knew her. And
And
so,
go to the publisher.
no, I'll read you this part. So reading Dorothy's book, I felt as if I had found my way into a sort of sanctuary, as if I had entered into the sisters' lives and stood beside them on the steps of the hospital. That was especially true when reading about such moments as the time a boy came to them, handed them a hurt bird, and said, "You do mend birds, don't you?" It was as if he were saying he wouldn't hand the bird over to just anyone, but only to those who would bring healing. Deeply moved by all this, I wrote Dorothy and Pog a poem and included it in a letter. I didn't know their address, so I simply wrote on the envelope everything I could glean from the book. Little did I know that the postal address was just as I wrote it and would remain so to this day. Dorothy and Pog Iglesias, Mousehole Wild Birds Hospital and Sanctuary, Regina's Hill, Mousehole near Penzance, Cornwall, England. And I found that in the book and I put it there.
Beautiful.
Dorothy printed part of this letter and the poem I sent her in her second book in answer to the cry, and she described what was for both of us the beginning of the most wonderful friendship based on the deepest possible recognition of each other's being. This is what she wrote. The publication of The Cry of a Bird brought us hundreds of letters from all parts of the world. Of one of those who wrote, we have most happy memories, a young girl from America, then aged 13 years. She had read the book and wrote to the warden of the sanctuary saying, oh yes, so I did write to the sanctuary. She wrote to the warden of the sanctuary saying she did not know if Pog and I were still there, but she had much enjoyed reading it as she too loved all nature and wild creatures. She added, I cannot donate money, but I can donate something that will be more of me, my poem. The cry of a bird coming from the sea, where all life began. You see a shape, the wings, outspread in the rejoice of freedom. It cries farewell and meets the horizon in harmony, a bird, a live bird. Dedicated 1st of October 1969, dedicated to the Wild Birds Hospital and Sanctuary, Mousehole, in memory of Dorothy and Pog Iglesias, all the birds that died in their hands, they thought this was funny, and those who lived to fly and cherish life again.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful.
Thank you so much. There's a wonderful complementarity about both of your poetry.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's just seamless.
Well, and also very distinct voices,
Yeah.
which is beautiful.
Yeah.
Complementary.
Very
Yeah,
good, very
exactly.
distinct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And poetry should be heard.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very different,
Yeah.
hear your poetry.
Yeah.
Mm.
Thank you.